705 horsepower F-150 that drives like a muscle car. I cannot believe I'm actually saying this here, folks. A 705 horsepower pickup truck. I will show you some images of this beast of a truck here. And like I say, when I was growing up in the late 70s, most muscle cars back then would only push out 400 horsepower. I know the Z28 that I had back in 1981, it was only pushing out 225. So here we are, folks, 2026, and we're talking 705 horsepower F-150 trucks. Now, this one here is called the Roush Nightmare Edition. So it's got the Roush uh, performance, everything updated to the truck, of course, because Ford's not building these out of the factory like this. Now, this tire smoke supercharged F-150 is the street performance truck Ford doesn't build, sorry. Now, as you can see from some of the photos, this is a monster, I think, of a super truck. For all you Ford fans out there, this one is going to be, a head turner when you see this one driving down the road for sure. Now, the pros of this one is it's got a supercharged V8. It's as powerful as it sounds, is what they're saying. When you're taking the corners on this one, it's not going to feel like a truck. And it's got the proper sport truck stance, of course. The cons, though, is, the exhaust gets old fast on the highway. It seems to be pretty loud. It's got an $80,000 price based, on the F-150 equipment. And it's got a rear end that is pretty stiff, is what they're saying, because it's a high performance truck here. So now, the American muscle car is in pretty, sorry state right now. Chevy once again killed the Camaro, though it's returning soon, is what I'm reading. And Dodge has chased away diehard Mopar fans with its electric 6-cylinder Chargers. Now that's left Ford the only shop in town that's selling V8s, under their Mustangs. Now, so even wilder, though, performance tuner Roush, which first started supercharging Mustangs some 30 years ago, is also out of the muscle car business, at least for the moment. The Michigan-based performance engineering outfit still sells parts for Mustangs, but it no longer builds turnkey 700 horsepower specials like it did in the last, generation pony cars. As with pretty much the rest of American auto industry, Roush has turned its attention to the trucks. I wonder why they are doing this now. I'm curious. Let me know in the comments. Why is a performance company turning more towards the truck segment now? Is it maybe it's because more people are buying trucks? And maybe that's the reason. But let me know in the comments. I'm curious. So, anyways, now getting into more details here. Here's the thing, though. If we blindfolded you, is what they're saying from the article I'm reading, and placed you in the passenger seat, Roush is, pretty well saying that they could probably trick you thinking that you were sitting in a muscle car, is what they're saying. This doesn't feel like a truck. This 705 horsepower truck it does so well that a rear wheel drive performance car, this is what it's going to sound like, a rear wheel drive performance car. The way it turns, and especially the way it accelerates, you would never think you're inside of a truck for sure. If you were blindfolded, is what they're saying, of course. Now, you push both brake and gas pedals to the floor, and the Nightmare's 5.0 liter supercharged V8 feels like it's going to rip the dry shaft right out of the truck. Lift your left foot, and the roaring engine launches this truck to 60 miles per hour in 3.7 seconds. Roughly 10 seconds into the run, and still 300 feet shy of a quarter mile. Now, the Nightmare crashes into Ford's 106 miles per hour governor. Keep the speedometer pegged, and you stop the timer in 12.1 seconds, is what they're saying, making the Nightmare every bit as quick as the Ford Mustang Dark Horse. And that's, you know, 700 horsepower F-150 and the Raptor R. So very interesting. As you can see from the images here, this is beautiful. I think if you're looking for a high performance truck, this truck stands out. I think for sure. Kind of gives me back the memories of the original gas powered uh, Ford Lightning, because that thing was a beast as well during its time. Now, Roush sells its vehicles through roughly 300 Ford dealers, allowing you to finance them just like any other new car. Now, the Nightmare comes in two specs. You've got a regular cab truck, like the one tested on the article that I was reading. Um, it's based around the F-150 XL with all-wheel drive, while the crew cab trucks start life as at the XLT versions. But either way, the Nightmare upgrades add $22,999 to the price of the truck. I think that's pretty not too expensive considering what you're getting. Because if you were to go and buy this stuff, how can I say it? Through a custom shop, and you're going to do all these upgrades yourselves, I can guarantee you, you're not going to get all those parts for $22,999 out the door. I can almost promise you that. Now, that buys you the suspension as well, you know, and new anti-roll bars, dampers, progressive rate springs that drop the front of the truck 3 inches and the rear 5 inches for that perfectly level sport truck stance. Now, it also includes 22-inch wheels and tires, a cat back exhaust system, and brake rotors, and all of the interior and exterior dressings you see in the photos here. So, again, like I say, if you were to buy this stuff separately, you're going to pay a lot more than that. Now, the price does not, however, include the most important part. Due to emissions regulations, you must sign the paperwork to purchase the first truck, only then can the dealer install Roush's supercharger to boost Ford's Coyote V8 from 400 horsepower and 410 pounds of torque to the 705 horsepower and 635 pounds of torque. So I was wrong. I thought it was 685 pounds of torque. So it's 635. Now, you'd be crazy to buy the Nightmare without it, is what they're saying. Now, also, as you can see, it's got the grip, is what they're saying. The Nightmare rolls on the 305 millimeter with tires at all four corners. Now, the all season General G Max AS07 rubber dug in far better than they expected, is what they're saying, with the Nightmare hanging onto corners with 0.90 Gs of stick. That's just 0.01 G behind the greatest truck they've ever tested. And that was the 1,025 horsepower Rivian R1T quad wearing Michelin summer tires. Now, like I say, this one, if you were to drive this truck, you would think you're not driving a truck. You think you're driving some kind of a high performance street car for sure. Now, the two-door Nightmare carries 61% of its 4,766 pounds on its front axle. So it's not surprising that the truck wants to understeer if you try to turn using only the front tires. But you don't buy a truck capable of sending this much thrust to the rear wheels just to steer with your hands, right? So stab the gas mid corner, and the Nightmare will make a delightful, hard, and smoky pivot. All this awesomeness isn't without the trade offs, though. Now, we like the exhaust sounds as, pissed off as a grizzly bear. We wish Roush had installed an active valve system capable of turning down the volume in these situations, because I guess this truck at 80 miles per hour, it is pretty loud. So now they're saying here in this information that they wish Roush had installed an active valve system so they can turn it down a little bit so it's not so noisy. Now, the Nightmare also rides like its rear springs are made of concrete when the 6.5-foot bed is filled with nitrogen and oxygen. Oh, and there's a hitch on the back, is what they're saying. But Roush doesn't recommend towing with the Nightmare truck for some reason. It must be got to do with all of the setup with the transmission and all this other good things. So, um, now what they're saying here, a unicorn in the tuner world is what they're saying at $79,039. All in for a supercharged two-door, the Nightmare is reasonably priced, even if it isn't exactly affordable, is what they're saying. Despite its base model bones, it doesn't feel cheap, thanks to part to the standard 12-inch digital instrument cluster and the large 12-inch infotainment system, or I should say screen. And its assembly shop in Michigan, Roush reupholsters the cloth bench seat to black and red leather and replaces the vinyl steering wheel with a sculptured leather wrapped piece. The fit and finish is polished enough to look like the Nightmare rolled straight out of Ford's factory like this one, and the cabin makes a good first impression. Spend time with the truck, though, and you'll find plenty of reminders that it's a stripper at its core. It's missing some of the most basic amenities, such as the lighted, vented mirrors and a rear window defroster. So, if Ford built a truck like the Nightmare, it would almost certainly they would almost certainly charge more. That's more than a hunch of what they're saying. And like I say, now this truck is not for everybody, but if you got the money and you want to buy yourself a truck that will inspire you and make you want to wish that every weekend through the week was a weekend. If you're only going to be driving this truck on the weekends, of course, you're always going to be always wanting to see Saturday and Sunday come pretty soon when you're working through the week. Now, because I know if I had a truck like this, mm, I would be trying my best to enjoy it as much as I could. Like, subscribe to the channel, and that is the video for today. And happy driving. Bye for now.